Welcome to the Space Commune live stream. I'm your host, Fox Green. Who do we have in chat tonight? We got Reestablishment says it's time for Fox Online. That's right. It's Fox News hour here. Fox and Friends. That's right. Fox and Friends, Fox News. I should just use their logo, put it in the corner of the screen. Hello, SOS USA. Good to see you. Yeah, I should just use the Fox News, right? Maybe just change the colors slightly. Change the colors slightly, and you think they'd like that? I think Fox News would appreciate me ripping off their logo, right? Green and the gang. Against the Greens. Fox Green against the Greens. I have a very appropriate last name since I'm always fighting the Greens, right? Fighting the Malthusians. Fox and Friends, fair and unbalanced. That's right. We tip the scales in our favor. None of this fairness crap. We're giving a platform to me, basically, but to the voices that you would not normally hear, right? So we're in favor of people you would not normally hear. So we're very unbalanced in that way. Fuck balance. Just kidding. Yeah. How is everybody this evening? It's March now, right? It's March this year. We're already a sixth of the way through the year. Is that right? I'm happy. I like spring. I like spring, summer, and fall. Do not like winter. I'm ready for the warm seasons. Yes, Unsoylent Green. That's gonna be our drink brand, Unsoylent Green, and we're gonna have the anti-Malthusian activewear. That is the pro-humanity activewear instead of the Patagonia. March CPI conference is this month. Get hyped. That's right. Are you going to be there, Reestablishment? I'm going to be there. I got to work on my presentation. It's going to be fun. We're going to redo what we did last month with the rage rally. I'm excited. I liked going to DC. It was fun. Androgonia. Okay, that works. Well, Patagonia is named after a mountain range, right, in South America. So maybe we can. What is a pro? I don't know. What is an anti-Malthusian pro-humanity? I don't know. We gotta brainstorm. We'll think of something. It's like the Nathan for You, right? It's like Nathan for You when he did his outdoor gear. Summit Ice, right? And it was Holocaust awareness or something. Well, we're gonna come out with an outdoor gear that is anti-Malthusian. It's Malthusian awareness, right? Malthusian awareness. We want to make people aware of the Malthusian movement, and the dangers that it poses to society, which is very large, very large. The Malthusians are getting stronger, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. This guy Kohai Saito, I'm seeing way too much of him. Some people wanted to name America Appalachia. Is that right? Some people wanted to name America after Appalachia. That's cool. I'm into it. So yeah, this guy Kohai Saito, I'm seeing way too much of this guy, way too much, and I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I think that the people who declare Marxism, right? That's what people do now. They say, I declare Marxism. I claim Marxism. The people who claim Marxism are not doing a good job of coming out of the woodwork and shooting this guy down. in his tracks because this guy is dangerous, very dangerous. He's becoming more and more popular. They're promoting the shit out of him. And they're not sending their best. That's right, Alex. So, yeah, this guy... They just put out a Guardian article with Kohai Saito. And we're going to read through it. We're going to read through it tonight. Because this guy sucks, man. He fucking sucks. A Greener Marx. Kohai Saito on connecting communism with the climate crisis. This is dangerous stuff. This is his book. If you've been watching the stream, you've probably heard me mention him a few times. At the very least, I guess he's given me some good content, right? He's a good prompt for content. Kohai Saito. So, author of surprise hit Capital in the Anthropocene, has developed his arguments in a new study of Karl Marx's ecological thinking. So, I don't know, what do you guys think of Kohai Saito? I think he fucking sucks, man. He sucks. Oh, I screwed up. Hold on. I screwed up. Here we go. I'm trying to get my screen set up so I can see the chat while I'm reading the article. Get your comments. Okay. So we got Kohai Saito, kind of a nerd, kind of a huge nerd. So when academic Kohai Saito submitted his manuscript on Karl Marx, the ecological crisis and arguments for degrowth economics, he hoped it might introduce at least some people in Japan, which is where he's from. This guy is a Japanese guy. To a new perspective on the climate crisis. Didn't some crazy shit just come out too about Japan where it was like, that guy was like, old people should kill themselves? Oh. I think he's like a colleague of Saito's too. I looked into that. It's hard to find though because it's all in Japanese. But all right, so fast forward 3 years, and the subsequent book, Capital in the Anthropocene, has sold more than 500,000 copies, and Saito, a thoughtful 36-year-old, he's just about my age, is now something of a Marxist celebrity. So I think they're probably promoting him in the same way that they promote BreadTube, right? Where they're kind of astroturfing this person to make it seem like he's more popular than he is. I don't know. Maybe he is actually popular. Maybe in Japan. I don't know a whole lot about Japanese culture, but I don't know. I think they got some issues going on there, right? They got some fucking issues in Japan with the fucking anime and. Yeah, he needs to wear those square and circle glasses. Yeah, they all have these, like, cheesy-ass glasses. It was a big surprise, admits Saito, on Zoom from his study in Tokyo. So much of a celebrity we need to be told he's a celebrity. Yeah, exactly, right? I'm pretty sure they did the same thing with Jason Hickel, too. I don't think Jason Hickel was, like, beloved by people. I think that they kind of like turned him into this astroturfed superstar kind of guy because he's promoting the right agenda for these people, the degrowth agenda. Surprising how degrowth is so popular, right? I don't think it's popular with regular people. Maybe they're waiting the popularity for people in the PMC, right? The kind of people who voted for Elizabeth Warren and who love Harry Potter probably love this stuff, right? That seems to be the target audience. Now Saito says he has not always been a degrowth communist. He has written a more academic text, Marx in the Anthropocene, which builds on those arguments to propose degrowth communism as a new way of living. At a time when degrowth economics is being hotly debated within and outside the environmental movement, Saito's aim, he explains, is to overcome the divide between Marxism and degrowth, bringing together the red and the green. I think he means to say the brown and the green, right? Because that's really what it is. Many in the environmental movement argue that capitalism and its infinite accumulation on a finite planet is the root cause of a climate breakdown. Is the root cause of climate breakdown. Now, if you've watched my channel, you've probably heard me talk about infinite growth on a finite planet, right? This is the mantra. This is the motto. This is the thing that's always brought up, right? This is like the axiom that all this environmentalist bullshit hinges on is we can't have infinite growth on a finite planet. And it's repeated over and over and over again by various people within this movement. On the last stream, we talked about Peter Buffett, right? Peter Buffett is a big proponent of the environmental. Here, I'll highlight. You know, it's very helpful that the Guardian they highlight the highlight color is like a highlighter color. It's very easy to see. So we talked about Peter Buffett, right? And Peter Buffett is a big supporter of the degrowth movement. He financially supports it. He's in line ideologically with it. And we looked at one of his blog posts, right? We looked at something he said on one of his blog posts. This is his website, peterbuffett.com. You can go there and look at it for yourself if you want. So he was talking about it's estimated that 2.5 billion people live on $2 a day. Instead of thinking, oh my God, that's terrible. What if we instead thought, how can the rest of us live that way? So he's advocating for everyone to live in poverty. And here he quotes at the very end, anyone who believes in indefinite growth in anything physical or physically finite, on a physical or, I'm sorry, I messed that up. Anyone who believes in indefinite growth in anything physical on a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist. So that's Peter Buffett repeating the mantra, the infinite growth on a finite planet and finite resources. Let's also listen to another clip, right? Nazi policy. So this guy, he says, in a resource limited healthcare system. So this was the stream. Can you guys hear that? Is it too low? You can hear that, okay? So this is a clip from the stream about the MAID eugenics program in Canada, where they're literally putting people to sleep, a la Nazi Germany, which is terrible. I shouldn't laugh, but listen to the justification for medically assisted deaths that could save millions of dollars on the Canadian healthcare system. Anytime we roll out a large intervention, there has to be a certain amount of planning and preparation, and cost has to be part of that discussion. It's just the reality of working in a system of finite resources. Oh, have you guys heard that before? This idea that we live on a planet with finite resources? That sounds so familiar to me. I feel like I keep hearing that over and fucking over again.
Our addiction to economic growth is killing us. We can't have infinite growth on a finite planet.
Oh, I just wanted to show that clip of Jason Hickel because he's so obnoxious. He's so obnoxious. Look at him. I hate this guy so much. But this is the degrowth line. This is the line that they all repeat because it's all predicated on this idea of like, you can't have infinite growth on a finite planet. They all believe this. This is the line. And so here you go. Here it is in Saito's work, right? Infinite accumulation on a finite planet is the root cause of climate breakdown. Right, Saito. But because Marx's writings on ecology have often been marginalized, there's a view that his socialism is pro-technological and anti-ecological. Based. That's me. Because Marx's writing on ecology has often been marginalized, there's a view that Marx's socialism is pro-technological and anti-ecological. That is based. We want everyone to be pro-technological and anti-ecological. This is good. That is what Marxism is meant to be, what it should be, but these Western idiots love to say that Marx is actually not. Marx is actually very ecological. Actually, I'm very smart with my fucking glasses, but they're fucking not. No, Marx is pro-technological and anti-ecological. Fuck this ecological bullshit. I'm working. I say I'm working on another documentary. Who knows if I'll ever make it? But one of the main theses of this documentary is ecology and learning about the ecology, the root of ecology. And there's a lot there. There's a whole lot there. I won't spoil it, but ecology is not good, folks. It's not good. We want a pro-technological society and an anti-ecological society. That is good. That means what this translates to? Pro-humanity and anti-humanity. Ecological means anti-humanity. Technological means pro-humanity. This is the translation here. Supporting the development of technologies to lay the foundation for a post-capitalist society and ignoring nature's limits, believing it can be dominated by humans. Yes, it can be dominated by humans, and that is good. This is the position that we should be taking. We should be dominating nature for humans. Yes, this is good. Dominated by humans is a good thing. I'd massacre 1 trillion shrimp for one human. Fuck yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, I'd massacre some shrimp just by fucking eating them shits. I love shrimp. But yes, of course. Human life is the most precious thing. This is the dividing line. According to Saito, it is possible and necessary to reconstruct Marx so we can reconstruct him, so we can see how he analyzed economic and ecological crisis. So basically what they're saying is we're gonna massage everything that Marx wrote, and we're gonna hope that nobody actually looks into this. And lucky for them, the people in the West who do actually look the most into this have done a great job of totally ignoring this argument and saying, you know what, actually this is fine. I believe this too. We call them degrowth tankies, and they're signing on to this shit. And it's pretty awful. Saito first studied Marx when he was an undergrad at the University of Tokyo, trying to understand degrading working conditions among temporary workers in Japan. After the earthquake and the Fukushima nuclear disaster in 2011, he realized how capitalism is not just simply exploiting workers, but also seriously degrading the environment. Influenced by scholars who made the case for Marx as an ecological thinker, including Paul Burkitt and John Bellamy Foster, Saito sharpened his analysis studying in the U.S. and began to learn German before his next move. So that's a big barrier, right? Is like learning German to be able to actually directly read Marx, right? Because a lot of his stuff has just been translated into English, and whoever's translating gets to take some liberties, right? Gets to take some liberties with what's being written. Maybe different words have different connotations in English than they do in German. For example, the word Aufhebung, which means to abolish, right? It's translated in English as abolish, but as I understand it, Aufhebung means to not just destroy and abolish and get rid of and burn to the ground, but basically to sort of like lift up, right? Lift up in a way. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, somebody in the chat wants to throw in some information about that. But look it up. Look up the word Aufhebung, because it doesn't translate perfectly to English. And that's been something that a lot of people have caught on to, right? So, but sublate. The sublate is a good word. I like that word a lot better. Sublate is better than abolish. So yeah, John Bellamy Foster, right? John Bellamy Foster, somebody very brilliantly wrote about John Bellamy Foster. I don't know if you guys have heard of this brilliant writer, Fox Green, who wrote this article about degrowth tankies. So here we see the brilliant author Fox Green writing about metabolic rift theory is the brain baby of John Bellamy Foster, an often cited and written about topic by Midwestern Marx editors and self-proclaimed Marxist experts who insist that the theory is first mentioned in Marx's Capital. It is not. Marx did not write about nature's metabolism and Capital, a critique of political economy. The only time the word is used in reference to social metabolism, which is about economic trade and nothing to do with nature. As for the false, out of context Xi Jinping quote, they are relying on their readers for not checking the sources. So this is already work that I've been doing, trying to debunk this bullshit that is getting promoted by predominantly Midwestern Marx. I've been not as aggressive with these guys, but I'm getting a little bit sick of it at this point, how they claim to be anti-Malthusian and claim to be anti-degrowth, yet they are right in line with these people like Saito, John Bellamy Foster, and this degrowth communism crap. This is like really bad stuff, really, really bad stuff. So they need to do something about it. They really need to do something about it. Anyways, going back. By the way, actually, you know what? Before we go back to this, I'll show you guys this, because let me just clarify some things about this essay, which they refuse to respond to, by the way. I called out Noah Kratchvik quite a bit in this essay, and he refuses to respond to it because he thinks I'm in bad faith, which is upsetting because I'm not. This is a topic which I care very much about, degrowth, and I think that it's very important that we debunk these ideas for the general public, right? Especially people who call themselves Marxists, right? This is not an idea that should be acceptable. But this whole thing got triggered by Noah saying this quote. Oh, right. Where was it? We will never again seek economic growth at the expense of the environment. Xi Jinping. So not only did Xi Jinping not say this, this quote, but the quote that he did say, that is sort of similar to this, has a very important caveat. So at the bottom of the article, where do we have the actual Xi Jinping quote? Let me find it. Oh, here we go. Okay, so the actual thing that he said, and this was at the World Economic Forum, he said, as I have said many times, we should never grow the economy at the cost of resource depletion and environmental degradation, which is like draining a pond to get a fish. Nor should we sacrifice growth to protect the environment, which is like climbing a tree to catch a fish. So this is like a very important statement that he's saying both of these things, right? And I would even argue that the first part of this statement is he's saying this at the World Economic Forum, where it's a Malthusian event, and the pressure is on this from this organization, which is in cahoots. Xi is mega based. I love Xi. World Economic Forum, they're hand in hand with the IMF and the globalist world government that is trying to depopulate the world. And they do it by saying, "Oh, we don't want to destroy nature." So of course, the leader, the emerging leader of the free world, Xi Jinping, has to say these things in order to be diplomatic, right? And maybe he believes them. Maybe he believes them. I've heard that Xi Jinping does care about the environment genuinely. So I'm sure there's a lot of truth. But the thing is, of course, he's going to say this to the World Economic Forum. But the fact that he puts in this caveat about, on the flip side of things, we're not going to sacrifice growth of our economy for the environment. That is like so fucking important. But it's totally left out when Noah says, "Oh, it's just we're never going to grow at the expense of the environment ever again." That's it. And he got like a ton of likes on that tweet because it goes right in line with this degrowth bullshit. It basically sounds like what a degrowther would say. And if he made an honest mistake, fine. Whatever. I don't care. People make mistakes. If he doesn't recognize, if he doesn't know, if he knows not what he's done, that's fine. I even give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he doesn't, and maybe he trusted some people who are actually, towing this exact line. So, if we look at a clip from one of Midwestern Marx's live streams interviewing this guy Carlos Martinez, we can hear directly verbatim where Noah got this idea that Xi Jinping said this stuff. So let me play this clip for you, and you can hear this guy says it directly.
And Xi Jinping's got a very famous quote on this. He says, "We've got to strike a balance between economic growth and environmental protection. In the future, we're going to be more conscientious in promoting green, circular, and low carbon development. We'll never again seek economic growth at the cost of the environment."
And that's the exact thing that Noah said, without the caveat at the end, and not giving up economic growth for the environment. This guy totally left it out. And he's saying that this is a direct quote from Xi Jinping. So this is where Noah's getting this information. So you know what, Noah? You're off the hook. You trusted this guy, and you shouldn't have. I don't know where this guy got his information.
So, what they're doing, what they're rolling out, it's similar to the Green New Deal, but on a massive, enormous.
It's not similar to the Green New Deal. The Green New Deal is actually a Malthusian plan of austerity and degrowth.
Scale. And as I said, China can do these things because it's a socialist country. It's not a problem for China to decommodify energy systems when they're already decommodified. It's not a problem for the big banks to allocate resources in accordance with humanity's needs because those banks are state-owned.
And yes, I agree. That part I agree with. Yes.
The banks have to be responsive to the demands of the people, not to the demands of shareholders. It's not a problem to shift priority away from GDP towards quality and sustainable growth when the whole purpose of your economy is to improve people's lives.
And so this part, yes, I agree with. He is correct on this. But this is the problem when you get only half the picture right? Is you're actually saying a lot of true things, and then you're sneaking in this other stuff that's actually really bad.
Going back to what you were saying earlier about different metrics, ultimately, what a socialist economy, the purpose of a socialist economy isn't to produce exchange values, it's to produce use values, which is the fundamental. It's the whole basis of Marxist economics.
I wouldn't say it's the whole basis,
when the political and economic system are responsive to the needs of the people rather than to the needs of capital, it's possible. You can achieve all of these things. China's made this decision to pursue a path of sustainable development, and it can succeed in it.
Who knows if they even chose this themselves? Again, there's pressure from the international ruling class, imperialist, globalist class for people to cut carbon emissions, right? So Who knows if China is choosing to do this or not, right? That they have to. They absolutely have to.
Where
Especially if they don't want to give the Western world a reason to go to war with them, right? Which they're already. I mean, well, I'm skipping ahead, but they're already doing it. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
capitalist countries are failing. Obviously, there's a long way to go. China is still, the biggest overall emitter of carbon dioxide. It has been for the last 15 years.
Which is why, and that's why, a lot of people think that the ecological civilization stuff is bullshit. And they say, oh, China's just giving lip service. They don't actually care about the environment, because they're still burning tons of coal. They're still burning tons of coal.
But it's also undergone an incredibly rapid development, where it's people, the majority of people didn't have access to clean and improved water, didn't have access to modern energy, didn't have access to fridges and washing machines and things that genuinely kind of quite important to living a decent modern life, a decent life in the modern world. But having reached a stage of development where everybody's basic needs are met, China is increasingly focusing its resources on green and sustainable development, and that's in the process there.
And he's attaching. I mean, he's attaching that label to it. They're developing for human need. It's funny how he started out by talking about, well, they're developing for human need, and that's the basis of their economy, right? Is developed for the usefulness to humanity and to regular working people. But now he's saying, no, they're developing for green. So which one is it, right? Which one is it?
Giving a great gift to the entire world.
That's so wonderfully said, because it overcomes these dichotomies and binaries that we set ourselves up in the West. That's the natural result of a non-dialectical outlook that people have towards the world, where in terms of ecology, you have on one side development and on the other side ecological life. And China has shown that you can have sustainable development, but that the precondition for that is a socialist economy that, as you said, can decommodify things and prioritize life, not just human but planetary life. And you mentioned John Bellamy Foster, the work that he's done and really showing.
There he is again, John Bellamy Foster.
The ecological dimension of Marxist thought, and even just with the quote that you brought up from Xi about the harmony and the balance between production, development, and environmental boundaries, I guess. That comes kind of right out of Marx in Volume 3. He's talking about the rational metabolism of human society and nature as what communism ultimately is going to look like.
So, wait, hold on. Let me go back a little bit here.
The balance between production, development, and environmental boundaries, I guess. That comes kind of right out of Marx in Volume 3. He's talking about the rational metabolism of human society and nature as what communism ultimately is going to look like. I think that's wonderful, and dialectical outlook that people have towards the world, where in terms of ecology, you have on one side development and on the other side ecological life. And China has shown that you can have sustainable development, but that the precondition for that is a socialist economy that, as you said, can decommodify things and prioritize life, not just human but planetary life. And you mentioned,
I thought he said limits, but I think he just said planetary life.
John Bellamy Foster, the work that he's done and really showing the ecological dimension of Marxist thought, and even just with the quote that you brought up from Xi about the harmony and the balance between production, development, and environmental boundaries, I guess.
Well, there it is, environmental boundaries. Okay, so boundaries and limits are the same thing. Here's the thing, and I'm listening to it, and it's very. It goes right over your head, right? Unless you're really listening for it. Betty hasn't watched. That interview with Ding Zhongli. Is that how you say it? I know. I love that interview. It's great. I should just play it again on my. I should just play it every stream. But boundaries, right? Planetary boundaries is the same thing as the limits, right? Limits to growth. So it's really subtle. And you have to listen for it. But these guys are promoting these ideas of John Bellamy Foster and this idea of planetary limits. They're going along these guys can say, oh, we don't like degrowth, we're not for degrowth, we're not Malthusian, but they're going right along with what Kohei Saito has to say, right? About and this guy is promoting degrowth communism. He's coming out as this big star. He's getting written up, using the work of John Bellamy Foster, who is the big promoter of all this stuff. So, back to the article. It was in Berlin where he researched his PhD Cum Award winning book. That's a weird his Cum Award. That he became involved in editing the new complete works of Marx and Friedrich Engels, including some of Marx's long neglected notebooks. If you look, so this is the secret of all of Saito's work is in these secret notebooks that were never published, right? Never published, and they're in German, so it's like, and the way Marx writes is like so dense and verbose and annoying to read. So it's like you basically have to like spend hours decoding this to even say, you know what, you're full of shit actually doesn't say that in here. So I mean, of course, he's safe writing all this stuff, right? He's safe writing all this stuff because who's gonna check him? Who's gonna check him? Midwestern Marx obviously is not going to. Yeah, I'll give Chris Morlock a shout out because I think he's the only one who has gone out of his way to actually investigate this stuff, and I hope he puts some real work together debunking this stuff because somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to freaking do it. And Midwestern Marx, they are not doing it. They're taking a victory lap as the self-anointed head Marxists in the Western sphere, in the American sphere, but they are not investigating this very important shit that's coming out. All right, so if you look at his notebooks, one realizes he studies two weird fields. One is in natural science, and the other is in capitalist societies. While Marx was supposed to be finished with volume 2 and 3 of Capital, he was actually studying nature, natural science, chemistry, geology. This shift points to a vital change in Marx's thinking, argues Saito. With his growing interest in ecology, Saito writes, Marx came to see the plunder of the natural environment as a manifestation of the central contradiction of capitalism. So, everyone who's ever studied Marx, right, never figured this out. Never wrote about it. It's this one fucking Japanese nerd who decided, you know what, I know Marx. I'm the ultimate Marx understander. And I conveniently have figured out a way to make Marx's writing work perfectly in line with the World Economic Forum agenda. Go figure. Actually, Marx was like, wind turbines and solar panels are very based. And I read about this, and you got to trust me. It's in his notebook that no one's ever seen before. And only I know about it. Only I know about it. Just trust me, you guys. Just trust me. I trust him. He sounds trustworthy. He's got glasses, which means he's smart. He's a nerd. So, Marx came to see the plunder of the natural environment as a manifestation of the central contradiction of capitalism. I mean, I love how these guys all use the same fucking words. Here's a tweet from, I've shown this before too, from Jason Hickel in 2017. Capitalists and communists only disagree about how to distribute the plunder of a ravaged earth. A ravaged earth, right? A ravaged earth. It's all, the ravaged earth, right? Where does he say it? The plunder of the natural environment. Plundering the natural environment. But I mean, now Jason Hickel loves Kohei Saito. I'm pretty sure this tweet has since been deleted. But now the story is very different. Now he wants Jason Hickel wants to tell you a story about something fascinating that has happened in Japan. An academic named Kohei Saito wrote a book about democratic degrowth communism. Everyone said it would be a flop because degrowth is a terrible word, which is true. It is a terrible word. And everyone fucking hates degrowth who's not a fucking stuck-up academic douchebag. And communism is a terrible word too. Well, we've had a Red Scare, we've had McCarthyism, we've had a Cold War. I think a lot of people do hate communism because they equate it with Malthusians like you, Jason Hickel, and like Kohei Saito. But I'm not going to read his whole thread, but it's a whole thread promoting Kohei Saito. So you can see, these people, they're working together and they're in the same influence networks. This motherfucker gets like shitloads of likes on his tweets. I don't know how, because he's a fucking moron. He's a fucking moron. Can't stand him. Anyways. By synthesizing these different approaches, Saito developed a unique way of reading Marx. He says as a degrowth ecological communist. Now, those three words are the evilest fucking shit I've ever heard. Degrowth ecological communist. That's our enemy. That is our enemy. Enemy of working people, enemy of multipolarism, enemy of human progress, enemy of all of humanity is degrowth, ecological communism. This is the enemy. This is literally all it is, just Malthusianism. It's Malthusianism with more steps, with more words. It's Malthusianism camouflaged as progressive and good, but it's not. It's very bad. Very, very bad. Degrowth argues that economic growth, the holy grail for governments in most countries, yes, is simply not sustainable, and that to stop climate breakdown, we need to reduce consumption. Saito cites Jason Hickel's work as one example. Oh, look at that. They cross-promote, right? Isn't that sweet? So here's a so-called Marxist who is totally in line with Jason Hickel. He is conscious of the critique that denying many countries in the global south the chance to develop in the way the North has could be destructive to people who are already very poor. They always have to throw in this little caveat about the global North and the global South. Well, like I've said on previous streams, the MAID program is happening in Canada, which is the global North. And we see how that's playing out, right? It's playing out as a eugenic program to lower budgets of governments and get people who cost too many resources for the government to sustain to just kill themselves, right? So we see how degrowing in the global North works out. It's pretty fucking bad. Pretty fucking bad. Woven throughout Marx in the Anthropocene is a mindfulness of this global imbalance. Like many degrowth people, I limit the scope of the argument to the global North, developed countries in the UK, Japan, and the US. I am obviously pro-growth for those countries in the global South. What is needed to achieve that new idea of abundance and progress, Saito says. Everyone on the planet, urbanoid, bikoid, Marxoids, are the biggest threat. Yes, and they're all the same thing. There's like, you get the urbanoids, the bikoids, the degrowthers. They're all part of the same Venn diagram. There's the overlap. The overlap is Gaia worship. They're all Gaia worshippers. They don't worship. They don't think man is a good thing. They think human beings are animals and should just die. What's funny is at the grocery store tonight, we saw some guy he was like some punk guy anarcho-primitivist guy, and he had Ted K on his jacket. He had a giant picture of Ted K on his jacket, and we saw him go to his car outside, get in his car. It had a giant sticker on it that said "No Lives Matter." It's like that's it in a nutshell. No lives matter, right? I think all lives matter, right? All lives matter is a very based thing to say, because all lives do matter. All lives matter. I think it's disgusting that like the woke people tried to say that all lives matter is bad and racist and wrong, because no, that's actually a very good statement. It's actually the perfect statement. All lives do matter. All lives matter. But, you know, the exact opposite of that is no lives matter, right? And that's what Gaia worship is ultimately all about. Nihilism, Gaia worship, no lives matter. Human beings are not worthwhile. You know, that's what ties all these people together. I'm obviously pro-growth for those countries in the global south. What is needed to achieve a new idea of abundance and progress, Saito says. Everyone on the planet should have access to the basic things we need to live. Electricity, water, education, but we need to come up with a vision where mass production, mass consumption, and mass waste can be avoided. This idea of mass consumption is bullshit, right? It's not like there's people who are just sitting there like consuming like crazy, you know? Like most people just consume what they need and that's it. This idea that we like consume too much is bullshit. We don't consume too much. I mean, some people overeat, some people smoke and drink too much, some people gamble too. Yeah, people have vices, and that's been a thing that's always existed, right? Yeah, I want people to consume more too. Exactly. The more energy you consume, the more your quality of life goes up. So we need more people consuming more. that we shouldn't be anti-consumption. That's like ridiculous. It all goes back to this Gaia worship. Humans are a plague on the planet idea. Crucial to imagining this alternative world is another strand of thinking in Marx's notebooks. His interest in pre-capitalist, non-Western societies. The anarcho-primitivism, the neo-feudalism is popping out, right? Pre-capitalist, non-Western societies. These guys, they love this like, feudal, anarcho-primitivist way of living. They want to ration everything. Yes, they do. These are the people who, when people say, "Oh, communism is about everyone being equally poor," these guys are like, "Yes, actually, yes," and we love it, and that's what we're advocating for. They're like, it's like they took the Cold War propaganda and they said, "Yes, actually," It's like, what the fuck is wrong with these people? What the fuck? Contrary to ethnocentrism in some of his earlier work, ethnocentrism in Marx's earlier work, in the end, Marx emphasized the importance of learning from these parts of the world for the Western societies. So we have to learn. So Marx said we have to do land back and learn from the indigenous wisdom and do the noble savage trope. That's what he's saying. Informed by this and his ecological studies, Marx's idea of communism changed significantly. And interesting. So everything you know about communism is wrong. And Kohei Saito, this guy, is here to tell you the truth about communism. Everything you know is wrong, and this guy knows the truth. What a fucking asshole. These people. I swear to God. Where were we? I lost my spot. Marx's idea of communism changed significantly and was no longer growth-driven. Oh, go figure. The pre-capitalist society had a unique way of communal regulations of land, Saito says. They also imposed various rules on their production and consumption, which realized a more steady state of sustainable production. Oh, wait, so actually communism is all about the limits to growth and steady state economy and degrowth propaganda? That is so convenient. That is so convenient that that's what communism is all about. You mean it's been about the exact opposite up until now? That's crazy. That is so crazy that this one guy knows the truth. This one man knows the truth. Still, you may wonder why such a deep engagement with 19th century thinkers matters today. Saito argues that Marx's way of understanding the relationship between humans and nature, encapsulated by the theory of metabolic rift, a vigorously debated subject in Marxist circles. Is it, though? Is it? Midwestern Marx seems to think it's a thing. And when I try to debate it, I'm told that my tone is not appreciated and that I'm in bad faith. So, but can determine how we respond to the climate and ecological crisis we now face. The basic premise of this thesis is that human nature interaction is the basis of living. But capitalism organizes human interactions with their ecosystems in such a way that it creates a great chasm in these processes and threatens both human and non-human beings, Saito says. Some criticize this concept, arguing that it divides nature and society so as to ignore how the former is completely transformed by capitalism. But Saito doesn't agree. Some critics of this concept argue that it divides nature and society so as to ignore how the former meaning nature, is completely transformed by capitalism. But Saito doesn't agree. His use of the term Anthropocene is meant to recognize the entire planet is now fully transformed by our economic activities. But he rejects that this means that we do not have to distinguish between nature and society. If we understand the two as the same, Saito argues, we risk believing environmental problems can be overcome through more human intervention. God forbid we actually come to the correct solution, which is that environmental problems can be overcome through human intervention. Do you understand what this the implication of this sentence is? Is that environmental problems cannot be overcome through human intervention, and that humans are a virus on the planet. And human economy is bad for the environment, and that these things need to remain separate, and that one makes the other one bad, and that humans are bad for the environment, and there's no way that we could ever overcome environmental problems through human intervention. This is sicko shit. This is big time sicko shit. We must be attuned to the differences to grasp what we cannot change, such as temperature increases due to CO2 and the natural chain reactions that flow from it. What we can, most urgently, the fossil fuel industry. So that's what it's all about, shutting down fossil fuels, right? And fuck that, because shutting down fossil fuels means killing people, basically. Means reducing people's standard of living, means less energy, less access, less goods, less abundance. But, that's what Malthusians want. So that's why they're against I know some of you guys are opposed to the idea of fossil fuel in general, right? I'll do a whole stream talking about, we'll get into the abiotic oil thing at some point. Maybe I'll have Matt Ehret back on to talk about it, because I think he's done some work on that stuff. But the fossil fuels, right? Oil, right? Petroleum. That's their enemy. This makes him skeptical of technological utopianism. Though he had once been optimistic about the possibility of technological progress, he now sees the limitations. By hoping there will be new technologies, we simply wait until they will be invented, but the result will be that they will never be, and we will all be dead. I guess he does not have faith in humanity, right? We've made it this far, but this is, we have had technological leaps that have overcome our limits to how many people we could feed and house and take care of. But he's saying, you know what? No more. This is the end. This is exactly what Malthus thought too, right? Malthus, with his, nerdy glasses and his math and his, academic sources, he made this nice little chart that said, oh, actually, population grows exponentially or geometrically, but food only grows arithmetically. So at some point, you hit a point in the chart where the resources outstrip the population, and that's a catastrophe. That is what's called a Malthusian catastrophe. And our little friend Kohai Saito believes in that. He doesn't believe the original Malthusian catastrophe. He has come up with a new one, right? He says, no, it is not possible for us to overcome our limits to our population that we can take care of, because there are, there's a limit. There's a limit. They want to get rid of fossil fuel. They should at least have the courtesy to nuclear as an alternative, right? Yes, actually, we're going to get into that in a little bit, too, because some things have been changing in the Western world with nuclear energy, and I think it is in response to international goings-on, geopolitics, but we'll get into that. We've got that on the docket here. This is not just a criticism of much lauded technological fixes within capitalism, such as carbon capture and storage, but the idea that we can transfer capitalist technologies to an automated communist utopia, where collectively owned robots do the vast majority of the work, and there is no more resource scarcity thanks to green energy and things like asteroid mining. I mean, that all sounds based, and he's like, no, that can't possibly be it. I was like, why not? Why fucking not? Because he wants to have a career because Mr. Saito wants to have a career and be recognized by the establishment and the academy and Jason Hickel and all these fucking people, rather than having hope and faith in humanity. Saito welcomes these attempts for imagining post-capitalist world, but sees them as ultimately misguided. This kind of abundant future appeals to the satisfaction of people's immediate desires without challenging the current imperial mode of living in the global north, he observes. Such a vision accepts two uncritically existing value standards and consumerist ideals. Yes, it's our fault that we want things like Audis, right? Oh, God forbid we want cars and food and electricity. Oh, God forbid, right? We're the problem, the consumers. Capitalism doesn't just flout natural scarcity, caring little for the planet's limits, Saito argues. It artificially creates a social scarcity where we are always compelled to want more, the latest phone, car, or jacket. So, I mean, it's ironic that he's saying it creates a false scarcity, which is exactly what he's doing. He's imposing scarcity where there does not have to be one. But we can reorganize our relationship with nature, Saito insists, to imagine a new kind of abundance, regulating advertising, SUV usage, and constant mobile phone model changes while distributing both wealth and burdens more equally and justly among members of the society. They always fall back on this idea of like, oh, you always need a new phone. It's like, I really don't see that as a problem. I use my phones for like 4 years before I change them out. But even if I wanted to switch it out, like, who cares? Who fucking cares? These people are just like, it's not like we are like, we demand new phones every year. Like, no, they literally just come out with a new phone every year. And people buy them. So, but it's our fault, right? It's our fault. some sectors, those that don't make a profit and are so underdeveloped in capitalism, would be improved, which would mean more money and resource for education, care work, art, sports, and public transportation. So the problem is that we just need to regulate everything, right? Which is not, this is in no way sublating the capitalist mode of production. It's literally just is protecting the capitalist mode of production by imposing more regulations on it to stabilize it and make it exist longer. So it's kind of insane that these people call themselves like anti-capitalist, because they're not. They're trying to protect it by protecting the current mode of production and saying it just needs to be regulated. We just need to regulate it. Saito maintains this is not a miserablest alternative future. Pointing to Kate Soper's thinking, he says that the constant need to engage in competitive work and consumption is not a mark of the good life and, in fact, limits opportunities for fulfilling experiences outside the market. Without the need to produce for excessive, unnecessary consumption, which is necessary for economic growth, not the development of the individual, jobs could be fundamentally changed. We could spend far fewer hours working, using our abilities and talents to do what we can, and sharing the unpleasant and boring tasks more fairly. So when people say communism is free time and nothing else, I encourage them to make a distinction between what they're advocating for and what Kohei Saito and degrowth communists are advocating for, because it sounds awfully similar. I think the communism is free time and nothing else has a big problem, because although I get the gist of it and I think I agree in the long run with what you guys want, I think ultimately it forgets the fact of what makes human beings, which is that we love to work and we love to produce and we love to make things, and not just for our own self, not just as hobbies and like in our free time gardening or whatever. We like doing that, but we also like working together in an organized societal way to improve life for everyone, right? And to create things that we could not create on our own, like giant monuments, right? The other week I was in Washington for the rally, and I went to the Lincoln Memorial, and it's amazing. It's giant. You stare up at Lincoln, and he's this giant, like 50 foot. How big do you think the statue is? 20 feet, 50 feet? I'm not good at estimating.
50 feet sounds good.
50 feet, yeah. But do you think one person like did that all like in their free time because they were like, you know what, I've got so much free time, I'm gonna make a statue of like I'm gonna make them? No, people work together, right? You have to like organize people to work together, and that's what people want to do. I think it's what human beings want to do, is to work to build a better society for all of humanity. I think it's missing an aspirational element in that argument of the communism is free time and nothing else. I think that's what it's missing. But maybe I'm missing something. Man, I haven't spent a whole lot of time. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with the argument, but that's my critique as somebody who wants you to make your argument better, because it sounds an awful lot like what Kohei Saito is saying here. Saito, though, does not see this as romanticized return to the countryside, abandoning all technologies in the process, nor is he a Soviet Marxist. Using Andre Gorz's distinction between open and locking technology, he advocates the former, while the latter is about domination over people and nature, where technology is for discipline and monopoly. He gives nuclear power plants as an example. Open technologies can be run at a local level by cooperatives. Solar panels, for instance, are a more democratic way of controlling energy and electricity, he says. This doesn't amount to doing away with the state entirely, but he stresses my vision is not Soviet style. I'm not arguing for the state ownership of everything or a state-planned economy. That would simply change too little. Which is ironic because that's what Russia and China are doing, and they're fucking based, and they're leading the world against the Malthusian imperialists. So, of course, he's not in line with what they're doing. But so this statement really stood out to people, and this is actually how I found out about this article, because my nuclear advocate friends, who are not necessarily Marxist. Some of them might be, some of them are socialists, some of them are Republicans, some of them are Democrats, some of them are liberal. There are people of all backgrounds, right? But they're like a group of people that I engage with and follow because they're pro-nuclear. They're eco-modernist, and they critique the degrowth movement, right? The first person I saw this from was a guy named Fred Stafford. And we can see Fred writes for Jacobin, Damage Magazine, The Intercept, and the BTI, Breakthrough Institute. So he's a socialist, right? He's a socialist Jacobin type. The Intercept, leftist. Damage Magazine, socialist, even Marxist, I would say. Damage Magazine. And the BTI the Breakthrough Institute is an eco-modernist. So Fred, I would say Fred is an eco-modernist Marxist, right? That'd probably be a good description of Fred. And of course, Fred noticed right away this passage that we just read. And he says, this claptrap is what passes for serious analysis of power sector on the degrowth left. Nuclear requires monopoly and domination, while solar panels are democratic and can be run by co-ops. So what localist entity is balancing the grid? How is 24/7 industrial baseload supplied? Those localist democratic solar panels, by the way, spring straight from anarcho-syndicalist communes without any mineral extraction or domination, like Athena springing from Zeus's forehead, as do whatever resources make their electrical output useful on a balanced grid. So what Fred is saying, if you don't understand what he's saying, he's making fun of this statement, because if you know anything about how energy and electricity works, it's what Kaiho Saito is saying is completely delusional. It makes no fucking sense whatsoever, because first of all, where are these solar panels coming from, right? You have to mine lots of rare earth minerals to even build them in the first place, and that requires industry, big industry, right? Big coordinated industry. They don't just come out of nowhere. Like the idea that you could just get solar panels and then it's very democratic. Once you have the solar panels, then democracy. It's delusional. It's delusional. And he's also referring to here balancing the grid. So the way electrical grids operate is that you have basically a control center that is monitoring both the usage by all the residential and the buildings and the cities and how much electricity people are using, the demand on the grid, and then what's being produced on the grid. So it doesn't matter where it's being produced, whether it's burning oil, gas, wind, solar, hydro, nuclear. All of it's just electricity that needs to be brought into the grid to be distributed to where it's needed, where it's being demanded. Solar panels come from the solar panel store. Duh. Yeah, I know, right? It's anarchism. Do you guys remember that meme, that anarchist meme, where it was they were like, oh, if I need something, I'll just go to my back. If I need to eat, I'll just grow the food in my backyard, or I'll ask my friends for stuff that I need. It's just delusional. Or the insulin dumpster. Yeah, go to the insulin dumpster. I'll just go to the store and buy what these people just don't understand how the world works. New member, George Swan. Very cool. Okay, cool. New member. I love new members. So, there's so many flaws with what Saito is proposing. He's totally ignorant about how the electricity grid works. Saito thinks Star Trek Replicator produces everything. Yeah, more like, I hope you've been watching this whole time. I referenced you earlier because you're one of the few people who's actually like investigating what Saito is writing about, which is totally bunk. But anyways, continuing this thread, a lot of magical thinking from Marxists who've drifted away from the world of industrial production and producers. Their complete ignorance of said production replaced with scholarly devotion to its effects only, manifests as assertions of its inherent political flaws. I think he really boils it down very well here. It is magical thinking from Marxists who have drifted away from the world of industrial production and producers. That's what Marxism, Marxist-Leninism, was all about, right? Production. I always forget the quote from Lenin. Communism is electrification of the whole. I always forget the quote. It's so good, but Lenin was known for electrifying the nation, right? The communists brought electricity to a very poor country, right? Same thing with China, right? China went from a very poor country to an industrial powerhouse. This is what lifting up your nation, lifting up your people, this is what it's all about, is electricity is like the backbone of production of society, right? And consumption and growth. And these things are all good, but these people either choose to remain ignorant or they know and they're purposefully like misleading people. That's probably a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. Who knows? But Midwestern Marx is absolutely dropping the ball by thinking that they don't have to think about how electricity works, and just studying the Marxist texts, right? This is like the biggest mistake of people like Midwestern Marx is they don't understand how production works, how electricity works. If they did, they'd be able to debunk this stuff in an instant. But instead, they're caught up with this ecological society, metabolic rift nonsense, which is made up by Malthusians. It's literally made up by Western Marxists who are Malthusians in disguise, who emphasize ecology over technology, right? I love that they said that because it's perfect. We want to emphasize technology over ecology. They want to emphasize ecology over technology. And Fred summarizes that perfectly here. They're totally complete ignorance of production. You know, isn't Marxism and communism, isn't it all about who owns the means of production, right? Ownership over the means of production. If you call yourself a Marxist and you don't learn how production works, you don't know about production, and all you want to do is just study the holy texts of Marx, you're an idiot. You know, this is why Marxism is a total joke in the Western world, because nobody studies this stuff. You need to know how things work. Kate Brown, I don't know if this is worth reading. Do they extend the same thinking of healthcare? Hospitals often owned by corporate conglomerates. Their boilers are heavily polluting. Smug academoids. They handle radioactive materials and waste. Military operates them for its needs too. Yikes. We should prefer small, democratic, decentralized healthcare. They probably would say, yes, true. Because with decentralized democratic healthcare, then you can't do things that prolong people's lives. You could do all kinds of organic homeopathic bullshit, and lots of people would die. So, you know, I don't think that Fred is somebody who really understands the concept of Gaia worship and how much it dictates how these people operate. You know, you say, well, the side effect could be people die, and they might say, oh, we don't want that, but they do. That's what they want. They want people to die because they're Malthusians. Last year, him and Matt Huber wrote a piece. Yeah, so check it out. Check out their work. They're pretty all right. We had Matt on our podcast once. Matt's been very vocally opposed to degrowth, but I do feel like these guys still operate within the same axiom of like humans are hurting the planet, right? I think they still underline the same axioms. So but yeah, it's pretty crazy how he came out swinging against nuclear. One question, though, is how possible any of this actually is. Saito is aware of the challenges, but he points to Gen Z, Just Stop Oil, which is those people who threw the soup on the painting, climate protests around the world, and Alberto Garzón, the Spanish Minister of Consumer Affairs, who recently wrote about the limits to growth. So, I mean, that's it. Limits to growth, Club of Rome, Neo-Eco-Malthusians, they're right in line. This is a big challenge, this is a big change compared with the past 30 years when such movements have been marginalized. I am hoping the 20s and 30s will become much more turbulent as the crisis deepens, he says. He's hoping things will get worse. He says and hopes the amount of radical protests will grow and change, and our values will continue to accelerate. What I'm trying to do, Saito says at the end of our conversation, is inspired by these movements. Offer something for them. I tried to show why it is necessary to criticize capitalism and why socialism or communism can be a more solid foundation for their movements too. So, there you have it. This is what qualifies as Marxism and communism now, right? And the leading Marxist institutions, such as Midwestern Marx, are not debunking this at all, which is sad. I find that very, very sad. I find that to be pathetic, and I think that they should do better. But, that's just me. I'm just a bad faith hater, so. But yeah, so the conversation around nuclear energy is starting to shift in the US. And so here's Mark Nelson. Mark Nelson is more of a I think he plays it more apolitical. I think he's more of a generic liberal, but he's pretty smart and puts out pretty good information about the nuclear industry. He's worth following if you want to know what's going on. So he tweets out, massive cultural shift, superstar Democratic Congresswoman AOC describes how she safely visited a triple meltdown site in Japan. She further describes French nuclear waste recycling as a good thing. She has 9 million followers, many of whom are young women. And he threw that in there, I think, because people like to call nuclear energy like a bro thing. It's like the Bernie bro, but for nuclear energy. They're like, oh, nuke bros, Kind of stupid. It's really stupid. Here he is taking credit for convincing her. I think he's joking, but yeah. So this is pretty interesting to me. I of course I'm like, well, it's good that we are promoting the nuclear industry and being more rational about the nuclear industry here in the West, right? That's good that AOC, somebody who has a lot of influence, is now coming around on nuclear energy. But I don't trust AOC for a second, right? I don't trust her for a second. Like, what is this all about? Why all of a sudden? Now let me rewind back to 2019
is given that climate change is a pressing issue that must be addressed.
Let's see what she has to
would you
say.
approve the construction of new generation nuclear power plants?
Well, that's an excellent question. So I get asked about nuclear a lot. One of the things that we talk about in the Green New Deal is that we certainly leave space for nuclear in that energy mix to that transition. For all of us, it's always about the logistics of that transition and what that mix looks like. You know, is it, and it also has to come to the specific proposals, right? Like, where are we putting this? What are the environmental concerns with it? But also, what are the subsidies involved? And so we allow that to be a conversation in the community. We don't take a hard stance, yes or no. It's about the specific solution.
So she's basically not, she's not taking a stance on it. She's not going one way or another. But listen to what she has to say after this.
And, you know, folks have also brought up that nuclear technology has changed a lot. So I think that's certainly something to consider and have in the conversation. And then, you know, and this is an ongoing debate. You know, there are a lot of environmental concerns. As sea levels rise, we have nuclear facilities now that I'm frankly very concerned about, like Indian Point, that should have been shut down a long time ago.
So here she comes out swinging against Indian Point, which provided a quarter of New York City's energy, which was clean, carbon-free energy, right? Shut down by environmentalists in 2021. This was a major source of energy for the state and for New York City, her constituents, and it was replaced with the thing that they hate most, which is fossil fuels. You know, they shut down a plant that could have run for another, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. A major nuclear plant. And here she is, even though she's left it open for her to, you know, oh, we're leaving it open to change our minds and say this and that and the other. But Indian Point Nuclear should have been closed a long time ago. That's a really strange position to take. Really strange position to take on this, right? But they leave the door open. They leave the door open for this stuff. Because now, I don't think that it's a coincidence that all of a sudden we get this story breaking from Seymour Hersh about how Biden blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Now, all of a sudden, oh, you know what? The U.S., we're okay with nuclear again. We're okay with nuclear again. Don't pay any attention to the fact that we just sabotaged the relationship between Russia and Germany for our own benefit, so that we could sell them more natural gas. Don't pay any attention to that. Oh, you know what? People might get suspicious. We're starting to look like hypocrites. Maybe we need to open up some nuclear power plants. Maybe the fact that now Germany is deindustrializing because and going through degrowth because they don't have any stable energy infrastructure of their own, because they've gone all in on renewable energy and they have to import tons of fossil fuel gas, natural gas, fossil fuel to back it up, because when the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine, which is half the day, they need a backup source. And you know what that backup source is? Natural gas. So Germany became very reliant on natural gas. Now the prices of natural gas are going through the roof because they can't get it from Russia, because it's more on demand. It's more scarce. So they're degrowing. They're degrowing their industry. They're deindustrializing Germany to the benefit of the United States. So now the United States is getting all this. We're getting manufacturing back. You know, and if we're going to do manufacturing back, yeah, she does. She really does look insane. I know. She is an insane person. We're getting all this manufacturing back. Well, these wind turbines and the solar panels aren't going to cut it. And if these people don't want to make it so obvious that they're really aren't opposed to fossil fuel, that fossil fuel really isn't the bad guy, that really is just humanity is the bad guy, they're going to have to open up some. Their back is against the wall now. Their back is against the wall, and now they have to open the door to small modular reactors. That's the game plan. This is why all of a sudden AOC is in favor of nuclear and why she's softening her position, because they're going to open just enough nuclear plants to eke by and to maintain the status quo. This is what they're doing. So it's not all of a sudden she came to her senses and she saw the light. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be totally wrong. But this is what I think, because AOC does not have a good track record of having the people's best interests at heart. She's got a great track record on saying that's what she has, but then doesn't do it. Instead tells people to report their friends and family to the federal government for imprisonment and, have their lives ruined, So, no, I don't fucking trust AOC. I don't trust AOC. And I am actually very curious about how my Malthusian fascist friends at the DSA are going to take this news of AOC, right? Their queen basically endorsing nuclear energy, because these people have been vehemently against nuclear energy. Here's an example. This chick, Kristen Gonzalez, who is the youngest person to ever win, I think, in a state Senate race. She's young. She's like 27. She's a DSA person. Here she is at her inauguration.
Have reimagined a better world. She now stands with us as the youngest woman ever elected to the New York State Senate.
We've got AOC, and we've got Chuck Schumer, big Green New Deal degrowth Malthusian guy, and they're quoting a Marvel movie to inaugurate her. Right? The Infinity Stone. Isn't that the shit where isn't that like a Malthusian reference too? Is it anti-Malthusian?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't believe it. You tell me that, I don't believe it. But so listen, I did not say nice things about her, but it's warranted. Listen to what she has to say.
Do you think it was a good idea to shut down the Indian Point nuclear plant?
And this is after it got closed, and after it made all the prices go up, and after they had to replace all of the power with dirty fossil fuels.
And do you think nuclear has a place in New York's energy future?
I think it was a good idea, and we're very focused on wind and solar because we've seen that be successful for other cities. So, of course, with the Build Public Renewables Act, we know through wind and solar, not only and the use of municipal bonds, that this is also a bill that wouldn't cost our taxpayers anything. This infrastructure would actually help pay for itself. So that's why we're so focused on wind and solar as two very clear sources of clean and renewable energy moving forward.
Do you think
this person is a lying moron? The nicest thing I can say about this person is that she's an idiot, because she's lying. Everything she just said is a lie. These things don't pay for themselves. They're gonna make everything more expensive. The only reason they seem cheap right now is because there's all these subsidies. But you know what? We're creating a bubble, and all of that bubble is gonna burst. And people like this, we have to remember people like this, because they're promoting these lies that are going that the working class is going to pay for in a few years, when all this stuff just hits a breaking point, because everything she said is not true. It's just horrible. And this is a DSA. This is what the DSA is pushing, They're pushing their own Green New Deal. Here she is, right? This is what they're pushing on New York State right now. Is terrible, terrible stuff. They're trying to shut down all of our remaining nuclear plants. They're trying to impose wind and solar all over the place. They're preventing anything else from being built. They're preventing any kind of new gas plants, which need to be built in conjunction with the wind and solar to back them up, like I mentioned before. But they ignore all this. They keep their audience stupid. They use identity politics to hypnotize people, and just lie, just spout total lies about how the energy infrastructure works. It's criminal what these people are doing in New York State. There are some crazy activists who, so far the DSA has not come out against Queen Mama Bear here. I don't think they will too. I'm very curious to see how they react to her speaking in favor of nuclear. They're probably all very confused at this point. They don't know how to react. They're waiting from the orders from on high of like how to react to this. But there are some, extreme activists who are like, being like bratty subs, as Amy Therese coined the phrase. I think I'm probably giving her credit where she doesn't earn it, but I just love that, the bratty sub. It's like so perfect. But this clip is ridiculous. I just have to play it for you guys real quick.
My name is Leona Morgan. I'm a Diné woman
shrill.
from the Navajo Nation. Our lands have been stolen, but indigenous communities have been there for centuries, and we will be there for centuries more. Our Mother Earth has been mined, drilled,
Mother Earth.
fracked, and poisoned with radioactivity. We will allow no more. Nuclear energy is uranium mining. Nuclear energy is unending waste. Nuclear energy is weapons. Nuclear energy is imperialism. Nuclear energy is imperialism.
Nuclear energy is imperialism.
Nuclear energy is genocide.
Nuclear energy is genocide.
Nuclear energy is not low carbon. It is not a solution to climate
Yes, it
change.
is.
We do not accept your nuclear lies.
I love how she starts out with these ridiculous statements, and then she follows it up with lies once the crowd's like, yes, nuclear energy is not low carbon. It literally fucking is. It literally is. These people just have no shame. They're killing us. Ambulance pulls through the... Yes, exactly. You're killing us. It's the exact same energy. Exactly. It's the exact same energy. Nuclear energy is genocide. This is like ridiculous. Could you imagine? She's actually taking the heat off of imperialists and oligarchs and the globalist elites who are responsible for genocide and for all these crimes against humanity. She's taking the heat off of them and putting it on the solution to the problem, right? These people are psychos. These people are like, they're enemy of humanity. She's an enemy to the people she claims to support. I mean, nuclear energy is not genocide. Nuclear energy is not imperialism. Nuclear energy is just energy. It's a way to provide energy to people. But this kind of psychotic behavior is typical on the left. Very, very typical, unfortunately. And you can see right there the reinforcement that somebody like this gets, right? Where she says some outlandish thing and everyone's like, yeah, so like that's the reinforcement. If I was getting cheered on, I might be like, you know what? Maybe what I'm saying is true. Maybe I should say it some more. But so, I mean, here's like the flip side, right? The flip side of this is that something the green energy advocates never want to talk about is that the environmental damage so-called renewables do to the planet. I mean, who cares about the vast man-made lake of poison in northern China as long as it's not in my backyard, right? So this is the problem, is that the people who are realistic, who understand that actually solar panels don't just grow out of your solar panel garden, like Saito tries to imply, but actually these things, they require resource extraction as well. So here's where the messaging gets conflicted, right? Is that the degrowth tankies say, well, China is great because they're doing ecology in a Marxist way, and Marxism. China, good, Marxism. But they don't understand that actually people who people who understand how energy policy works or how energy operates is that actually they're extracting a lot of resources in order to do their green policies. And that's okay. Like, the axiom that we have to get over here is that it's actually okay when human beings extract resources from the planet in order to live and make life better for human beings. The minute you can say that to yourself, every other contradiction melts away, right? It doesn't matter if China is extracting, as long as they're doing it for the benefit of human beings, for their population, right? That's what's important. Not this Mother Gaia, you're killing the earth, human beings are a problem for the planet. No. The eco-modernists still believe that, even though they say, they rightfully call the degrowthers lunatics and Malthusians. They still believe the same thesis at the end of the day. And that's the problem. So either, and then this sets up justification to hate China, right? Because if you believe that human beings are a virus on the planet and the only way to save the planet is to transition to nuclear energy in order to save the planet, and that burning coal is bad, and that solar panels and all that are killing the planet, then you're going to say, well, actually, China is very bad because they're still burning a lot of coal. They're building all the wind turbines that we're buying, right, to save the planet. So that's that's what it boils down to. So then there's the other end of this conversation, right? So Mark Nelson says the energy transition is going to be a lot weirder than most optimists currently believe. Greta Thunberg joins protests against a wind farm, calling it green colonialism, against the group recently and infamously called Europe's only indigenous people. So what's weird for somebody like Mark Nelson is only weird because he still believes he's still a Gaia worshiper. He still believes that human beings are a virus on the planet. It's not weird when you realize that the point of these people, what they're doing, like Greta Thunberg, these environmentalists, the really hardcore people, is they don't want anything to be built. It's not that they prefer wind turbines over nuclear energy. It's not that they prefer hydroelectric over this or that. Everyone thinks that's what the argument's about. They think that the argument is about what kind of technology, right? And that's why these eco-modernists run themselves in circles and they say, this doesn't make any sense. These people want to save the environment by covering it in solar panels. That doesn't make any sense. Why are they opposed to nuclear? Because it's not about nuclear. It's not about nuclear. It's not about solar panels. It's not about any form of technology. It's about the fact that these people believe there are too many people on the planet and they want to reduce our population. And so they don't want anything to be built. When it comes down to it, they will protest. Of course they will protest the wind farms. Of course they'll protest anything. They want to stop it all in their tracks. It's called eco-sabotage, and it's something that anarchists have been doing for 50 years now, right? Called monkey wrenching. They call it monkey wrenching, where they just stop everything from being built, regardless. It's Ted K. It's Ted Kaczynski ideology. It's ideology that says, what's Ted K's quote that technology and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. That's what it all boils down to. Again, going back to technology versus ecology. Technology versus ecology. If you're against technology, you're a fucking Ted K. Gaia worshiper. That's what all these people are. And, you know, that's why the ruling class, they'll switch on the button on AOC and say, you know what, actually, she's not opposed to nuclear anymore, because whatever suits our geopolitical interests is what we need to promote, you know. And now all of a sudden, having some small modular reactors, that actually, some nuclear plants, that actually suits our geopolitical interests. The ruling class is technology neutral, you know. They don't care. They don't care. And they're also Malthusians. So, you know, they'll do as little as possible, whatever, you know, achieves their goal of power, domination, depopulation. It doesn't matter whether it's stopping wind farms, or whether it's stopping nuclear, or whether it's throwing on a little nuclear because now we kind of need it in order to maintain our dominance over the EU. You know, like, once you understand the ethos that drives all of this stuff, which is Gaia worship, and once you understand the geopolitical relations and how Russia and China are pushing forward the pro-humanity movement, it all makes sense. None of this is weird. None of this is weird or unexpected. It's not weird that all of a sudden AOC is pro-nuclear. It's not. It makes sense. It's to be expected. Or that Greta is against wind turbines, because Greta's a Malthusian. She's against all energy. No lives matter, right? No lives matter to the Ted Kaczynski people. No lives matter. It's about reducing our footprint on the earth. That's what it's all about to these people. So I haven't talked about the Ohio, the East Palestine thing, East Palestine. I don't know how you say it. It's Palestine. I haven't talked about it at all yet, I don't think, but you know, the seeing the reactions from people was interesting. Yeah, it is an environmental disaster, and it's bad that we're letting our infrastructure rot away, that we're cutting corners to the point where we let these things happen. There are alternative ways to transport dangerous chemicals across the country, though. Through pipelines, right? Through pipelines. But we're not allowed to build pipelines because that hurts indigenous people, right? It's these same people who are saying, no pipeline, no Dakota Access Pipeline. You can't build any of that stuff. That's bad. It's bad for Gaia. It's bad for the indigenous people with the right relationship with the earth. You can't do any of that. But, you know, the right-wingers had a kind of a dumb reaction too, because they were like, oh, where are all the environmentalists? And, you know, they cry over plastic straws, but they don't come to this. They forget about Ohio, which I think is stupid, because of course they're going to make the most out of this accident. They're going to play it in their favor. They're going to say, oh, get ready for this one. We're going to say, we need no more railroads. This is you know what this is? This is a 22 rail cars of liquefied natural gas contain the same energy as a nuclear bomb. Help us ban bomb trains. This is what they're going to do now. They're going to ban bomb trains. They're going to say, no, this is why we can't have any infrastructure. All infrastructure is bad. It's not that we need to repair it and take care of it and maybe look at alternatives like pipelines. No, we need to get rid of it. We need to return to monkey. We need to live. Technology is bad. We need to be ecologically minded. I will say in favor of the right-wingers that they said they were criticized. I saw some criticism of, you know, of course the liberals took the opportunity to talk shit about a red state and say, oh, they deserve it because they voted for blah, 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 blah. And, you know, that's disgusting. That is a fucking disgusting thing to say. But, you know, of course they're going to use this They're going to use this opportunity to shit on our existing infrastructure and say, see, it's too dangerous. It's too dangerous. We need to return to our grass huts and live off the land with no infrastructure. Infrastructure is too dangerous. Cars are dangerous. People die in car crashes. Therefore, we shouldn't have cars. Look what these people do. They will not let any good tragedy go to waste. In fact, a lot of these people orchestrate these tragedies themselves to then leverage them. But so this is an NGO, a local NGO called Mountain Keeper, Catskill Mountain Keeper, which some of you might recognize is, I think a sister organization to River Keeper, which is the organization, one of the lead NGOs that shut down Indian Point nuclear energy. So there you go. And, Mountain Keeper also has some interesting board of directors here. There's hey, look at that. Mark fucking Ruffalo. If you guys have been watching my streams, you've heard me talk about Mark Ruffalo, who is Hitlerite, Gaia worshipping, just shit lib, worst fucking opinions. Mark Ruffalo. That's the Hulk. That's the guy, the actor. He's terrible. He has the worst. He's a really bad environmentalist guy. 46,000 Americans die in car crashes annually. Ban cars now. That's exactly their logic. They don't ever calculate how many lives are made better by driving a car around, how many people are rushed to the hospital where they survive, accidents or whatever, or bringing their groceries home. And no, cars are they just kill people, and that's all they do. There's no benefit whatsoever. I mean, also too, I showed this on the bike stream, is that car crash deaths, just like not global warming, climate deaths have decreased over the years because technology improves, right? Our safety technology for cars has improved dramatically, which has made the death rate go down. So how about we continue the benefit of having cars, and we can improve on the technology of making them even safer, right? Win-win. I know, right? It's a crazy idea that these people believe. Kohai Saito believes. Where is it? Let me find it. No, I can't find it. You know what I'm talking about, where he says that we can't... Oh, here. Is this... The human beings can't fix problems? What is it? I'm going to find it. Hold on. If we understand the two is the same, Saito argues, we risk believing environmental problems can be overcome through more human intervention. And he's wrong. He's absolutely wrong. We can, and we have, and we will continue to solve problems through human intervention. This is understanding. This is a fundamental thing in understanding what it means to be human. To be human and to appreciate humanity for what it is this is fundamental to that. Is knowing that human beings can influence their environment, and we can improve on our environment, and we can improve on the world and our environment and humanity and everything we can through technological innovation. This is the most important thing to know about what it is to be human, what it is to be a human being. if you don't understand this, you're ignoring all of human history. You are ignoring, and this is why, like, Marxism, right, is about understanding historical materialism. You know, the way history has come to be, right, is you have to learn the material forces that are brushing up against each other and which are creating the conditions. And if you study history and you learn, if you're calling yourself a Marxist, you will understand that we have transitioned from better and better and better and better modes via technology, via the human ability to change our environment. This is like foundational stuff to understand with Marxism. And I'm not even an expert on Marxism, right? I'm not even an expert. I don't call myself an expert. But the people who do call them experts on Marxism, the people who call themselves that, like Noah and Midwestern Marx and Eddie and all them, they're totally ignoring this. They're totally ignoring this. They're letting Kohai Saito grab headlines without countering it. They're leaving it up to me. That's fine. I'll do it. I don't care. I'll do it. But they should support me in what I'm doing, right? Right? No, because I am tainted by the LaRouche movement. I have too much proximity to the LaRouche movement. And I have inherited their evilness and their evil ways. And I cannot be taken seriously. I'm just kidding. It's all silly drama, right? To keep people separated, people scared, so they don't learn, they don't use their brains. That's what we have to get over. Is we have to let people use their brains again. Encourage thinking. Encourage critical thinking. That's what Space Commune's all about. We encourage critical thinking because we believe that human beings have the ability to think rationally and to create and to innovate and use technology to improve the world, right? That's what we believe here. And I don't think any of that conflicts with Marxism. I don't think any of that conflicts with the American system, with the founding fathers, or with LaRouche, or with libertarianism. You know, I think that is an idea that anybody can get behind. American industrial left. Grandma tries to drive into slow lane, but everybody doing 120. Yeah, I know. We're so far behind. Midwestern Marxists revealed their allegiance to the synthetic left rally. Did they say anything about the rally? I don't think they didn't say anything supportive, I don't think. I don't know. I honestly have not been following them much, although I did have like a back and forth with Noah on Twitter. And I invite him to have a dialogue with me, you know, like if he wants to come on the stream and debate the ideas or just have like a dialogue about them, like I'm happy to do that anytime. But because that's how we sharpen our thinking, right? It's by having good faith conversations with people who disagree with us, because then we can elaborate on what we think and what we believe and have our ideas challenged and sharpened. I mean, that's a good thing. And if you're like a political person, if you're promoting politics in any kind of professional way, you should be open to discussing, to dialoguing with people when you disagree with things. I think it's very unfair that I've been categorized as not in good faith, especially when Noah was a friend of mine for a while. But you know, he blocked you because you called him a coward after he accused you of lacking integrity regarding rage. Exactly, and that's projection on his part. That is a complete projection. If he's calling you a coward, it's because he's afraid to debate his ideas. I think ultimately he is kind of afraid to debate his ideas. Yeah, I think there might be some overlap with PSL. Oh, I think you're right. I don't really pay too much attention, but okay, I will make a telegram. You want me to make a telegram? I will make a telegram. We have a Discord, by the way. If you want to join the Discord, it's get in at the $5 level on Patreon. And we have a nice little brain trust in the Discord. But you know, we can potentially open up we can start a Telegram too, have it be a little bit more open. I'm going to say ahead of time, I'm sure Andrew and Johnny or somebody like them would love to plop into our Discord, write some, you know, as a fake account and write some horrible stuff and then screenshot it and then cancel us later. So I'm saying this now so that when that happens, you can clip this and say, see, Fox already knew this was going to happen ahead of time, so we know what you're doing. Yeah, CPUSA I've heard is pretty bad. I mean, any kind of like leftist organization. I was listening to Caleb last night. He was talking about this. He was talking about how the left is just completely ineffectual. And he's right. He's absolutely right. It's embarrassing. It's sad. But that's okay. You know, like we can like walk away from the left. Walk away from all that. There's a lot of people who don't consider themselves part of the left, and I think there's a lot to work with there, right? There's a lot to work with. I mean, you guys see that, like, that woman who was screaming at the top of her lungs about nuclear energy is genocide. I mean, this is what we have to work with on the left. Not a lot there. There's a lot of insanity there. A lot of insanity. I honestly find most people, most normal people with a good framework, a good outlook, come from more of a right-wing position at this point, which is like fine. I mean, or like a lot of people who are just like in the center. They don't like subscribe to any of that shit, which I think is like, we need to transcend the left and the right. We need to transcend the left and the right, because if you look long enough at our ruling class, they transcend the left and the right. I mean, George Soros and one of the Koch brothers. I have this like hair sticking out here. What is it? They have a think tank together. Everyone on the left is like, oh, the Koch brothers are the big bad guys. And then everyone on the right is like, Soros is the big bad guy. But those guys are working together. They have a think tank together. They call it an anti-war think tank, too. I mean, if they can do it, so can we. Because it's bullshit anyways. Why does Midwestern Marx cause splits over revolutionary tactics and energy policy anyways? It's stupid, isn't it? Yes, I agree. And I honestly think it comes from insecurity. I think it comes from an insecurity and lack of real world experience. I think Eddie and Carlos, the guys who started Midwestern Marx, to me, they come off as genuine and good faith and, you know, likable. But they're young and they come out of like an academic background, and I think they've been influenced by some of the people around them, like the Thomas Riggins guy, who's seems like the most senior person involved in the organization, and he's like an old CPUSA guy, and I think that they're trusting the wrong people, and that they're too embedded in the texts, the Marxist texts. I get that they want to be like the experts on Marxism, but I think that they kind of leave out looking at just like what's happening in the world around them. I come from the opposite direction. I'm like a real person in the world. You know, have a business or a house. I employed people for a while. I'm just like a regular person just trying to get by. And then I, slowly learned some Marxism and, incorporated it into my worldview. And it's like I think people who come from an academic background, it's a totally different, I don't know. So the thing is, they're gonna have to figure that out on their own. They're in that world, right? And they're gonna have to figure it out on their own. And they really have no incentive to change course at this point because they are gaining followers, they're gaining attention, they're growing their channel. There's really no incentive for them to suddenly take a hard look at what they're doing and the people they're aligned with. All that being said, I hope they do, and I think that they have the potential to do that. I mean, the way they've connected to the works of John Bellamy Foster, the way they're echoing the same theories that are now being used to promote degrowth communism. At a certain point, they have to look at this stuff, I would think. But who knows? They don't want to hear it from me. They gotta hear. You know what? They gotta hear it from more people. I think that's the thing. They gotta hear it from more people. And not in like a mean way, not in like, don't like attack them, because then they're only going to double down on what they already believe. And they're going to say, see, oh, you guys are all toxic. You guys are all like toxic Haas infracells or whatever. We got to like approach them, try to in good faith at least. Yeah, they already banned you. I would think I'm the number one person to do it because I've been friends with these guys, but I don't know. I'm too, the problem is that I'm too friendly with the LaRouche organization, and Johnny and Andrew have made it their job to vilify me for that. I mean, like Lennon Bowl, right? Lennon Bowl used to be a friend of mine. He asked me to turn his Sakai essay into a video. We used to chat, but he became like insane over this stuff. He became insane over the LaRouche stuff. I never said anything negative to the guy. I don't know. These people, they've all been brainwashed. And who knows, like, if it's part of some bigger effort to split people, and who knows. Oh, you love the free time. You love that free time argument, huh? Were you here? I was making an argument against it. You'll have to rewind and watch that. But I side more with the LaRouche people on that. But I'll be honest, I haven't like thoroughly looked into both sides of the conversation, so I don't. Yeah, they are obsessed. They are very obsessed with Haas. Well, that's why they turned on me. They didn't like that I agreed with Haas on the Starbucks thing, so. You're going to send me the RTSG telegram? I can't keep up with all this stuff. It's all right. I talked to Rev about it once, and I respect you guys, and I think at the end of the day we agree. I can't get over the fact that it sounds too much like what degrowthers are arguing for. If you guys can articulate the difference between what Saito says in this Guardian article about it and when he argues for free time, how is it different than how you guys argue for free time? And I genuinely want to know. I'm not like trying to do a gotcha. I'm just genuinely like. Leftists are MK Ultra imperialist sleeper agents. Yes, accurate. Seems like they all are at this point. So I think when you say free, what you mean is like not coerced into wage slavery, right? Is that you already have everything that you need to live, and that none of your economic relations are with society are coercive, right? That's what you mean by like free time equals freedom, because nothing is coerced. We can automate everything. We can't ever automate everything, right? We can automate more and more and more and more and more and more and more, but we can't automate everything. Well, there will always need to be a human component, because the human mind is unique in that way. We can't. There's no such thing as like, because at what point what's stopping the robots from taking over? Then humanity doesn't even have to exist if they just do everything, right? Like, no, there always has to be the human component of the human mind, human ability for creativity, which we cannot transfer. We can't transfer that to machines. Machines are great because they do all the drudgery for us. They can't run themselves. That's right. That's why I think that we agree really on like where we want to head things. I don't think hinging it all on the statement of free time and nothing else. I think that gets a little bit too close to what degrowth is arguing for. But still, we should use this technology to reduce labor hours. But okay, and then the other part of this is that what about creative labor? What about mental labor? How does that factor in? Because mental labor, do something crazy, like what? Like I'll intervene on Jeffries. Right? Like is mental labor, does that get factored into the free time? Is the free time thing just about physical and manual labor? I should have a weapon as a prop. Are you trying to get me like banned? I see what you're doing. I see right through it. What's the point of living in a fully automated world? I want to go to a bar and talk to a human behind a counter. I want to own a stationery shop and talk to my human customers. Yeah, I mean, that I think is the missing component of the free time to totally automated, right? Is that, I mean, ideally, like all the drudgery work would be automated, and then you could work to do things that you wanted to do, right? So if you wanted to open a stationery shop, you could do that. And I think you're considering that work, but these guys are considering that free time. And I think that's where the argument falls apart, because you don't consider it free time if you have to put in effort. It's still work, but it's good work. It's work that's unalienated, right? And that's what Marx talks about is unalienated labor. It's not that we want to abolish all labor, because human beings love to work. We love work, and that's a good thing. It's that our work we're alienated from our labor because all the profits are captured by the capitalist class, and then we're left with, just enough in order to live, and sometimes even less. So that's the inherent flaw in our system, is that we labor, but it's for somebody else's benefit at the end of the day. We get to keep some of it, but not all of it, right? And the idea is that we want to create a society that where all the value that's created by human beings, all the surplus value that's created, is then goes to the commons, right? And creates a better and bigger society. Saying that humans love to work is delusional. American industrial left, how old are you? How old are you? Because you gotta talk to some people. You gotta do some living. People love to work. Regular people love to work. I'm not talking about like lazy kids. I know you're young. Like kids who are like, I don't want to work. I don't want to clean my room. I don't want to go to school. I'm not talking about people love to work because it makes them. It's a sense of pride. It's the ability to create something, to produce things. It's a wonderful feeling. Like you make dinner, right? You make a beautiful dinner and it's delicious and it's satisfying. Confusing between work and labor. Marx was clear. Are you saying that to me, or are you saying that to... Right, the bullshit jobs. There's a lot of bullshit jobs. You're working 4 jobs right now, 3 of them for myself, and I am exhausted, but I am loving it. Well, and a lot of it depends on what you're doing, right? If you're doing a job that you know is bullshit, of course it sucks. It's draining. It drains your life force, and it sucks. But if you're doing a job where it's like, I'm contributing to something that is necessary, that will help people, if you're building a house, if you're like, doing work that is, if you're a lineman, right, and you're fixing the transmission lines so that people can have energy, that is satisfying. That is satisfying work. And that's the problem, I think, is that a lot of Americans don't have satisfying work. They instead do these bullshit service jobs like Starbucks baristas, where you're basically like somebody's like paid slut. You're like it's like a few steps up. I used to wait tables. I used to bartend, and I used to think like this is just a few steps up from like, being a prostitute, because you're basically you're serving somebody, right? You're doing something that they could easily just do themselves, but you're serving them at their pleasure. And that's not to say that all service work is like prostitution or whatever. Sometimes serving others can feel good and feel nice. Like if you love what you do and you're like, I created this coffee that is like beautiful and unique. It's a coffee experience, and you serve it to people and they appreciate it, like that's different. But if you're just doing these mass produced like Starbucks garbage bullshit jobs, then that is soul draining, right? There's so much to talk about with this stuff. There's so much nuance in this like labor stuff. But most service jobs fucking suck, and like gig working is the worst, the absolute worst, right? Because that's creating more jobs that are totally unnecessary. And yeah, like some people need a service like Meals on Wheels, right? And that's good. And I'm sure doing Meals on Wheels, we're literally rewatching what's the name of that show? The David Lynch show? Twin Peaks. And Laura Palmer did Meals on Wheels, right? Meals on Wheels used to be like the original delivering food to people who need it, right? But that makes you feel good. Like you're helping somebody. That's service where it's needed, where it's like, helping. But like, I have a friend who she's, struggling to pay her rent and take care of her kids and whatnot. And she has to do these like gig working jobs where she goes around grocery shopping for rich people and then delivers the food to their house. And it's horrible. Like, that's horrible. It's like, no, get your own fucking food. You know, but she's forced to do this in order to afford rent, because the rent around here has gotten so ridiculously high because they're degrowing everything, and infrastructure and jobs are scarce, and infrastructure is scarce, and everything's becoming more and more scarce, which makes the real estate go up, and then working people suffer the most. But yeah, like, teachers are pretty essential. Teachers, doctors, things like that, or service workers. The problem is rent itself. Klaus Schwab loves it. Higher rent equals more Klaus Schwab communism. Yeah. Rent is a huge part of it, right? The rent-seeking class, the parasitic class that contributes nothing to society. All they do is feed off of the existing wealth that's been created on the backs of the working people, the proletariat, and they just like extract rents from people. They're parasites. Exactly. That's exactly it. You actually like talking to people. Working from home would be hell, but some people love to do it. Yeah, I mean, I work from home and I've been doing it for a while, but I also really like going out and talking to people too. So I very often miss having a job where I have to talk to people. Used to deliver groceries, had two kinds of customers: people who were too sick, infirm to go to the store, and people who were so rich they couldn't be bothered. Guess which group tipped you? I bet the sick people, right? Because they truly they needed your service. They needed it, right? If housing costs were reduced by 75% tomorrow, everyone would be rejoicing. Yeah. So I'll tell you guys, the reason I say sometimes Trump was like the best president in my lifetime so far and contributed the most to my material prosperity is because he put a moratorium on mortgage payments during the pandemic. So my housing was basically free during the pandemic. And that made a huge difference in my life. And I was like, oh my God, like, if everybody could have this, if everybody could have this, that would be amazing. It transforms your life to not have to spend so much of your income on housing. I agree. I've always liked poor folks more. I grew up, kind of poor and around very rich people who are all fucking douchebags. So I love the working poor, and the working people are good. They're good people. Very good people. You don't meet those kind of people in institutions and the academy. But you do learn about Marx. You learn Marxism from the academic point of view. I think there is a working class spirit that you learn just by living amongst working class people. Yep. You guys are all dropping hot facts. Hot facts in the chat. 17 years in middle class, spend the rest. Oh. You had to rewrite that one, huh? Oh, all right, guys. Well, wow, that's 2 hours go by quick. I'm proud member of MCP, American Landlords Serve Klaus Schwab proudly. Yeah, and I would say not even all landlords are horrible people. You know, I used to do tenant organizing here locally, and we would canvass for, you know, laws to promote tenants' rights. And, you know, one time we knocked on the door of a very small local landlord who was basically this older, you know, black couple, and they had, I think, just like one or two additional apartments on their property or something. And they were so nice, and they were like, yeah, we support this. We even had a woman who was a landlord canvas with us, because she's like, I care about tenants, and you know, there's people who are landlords who are not. They're just, you know, they're in that situation because, you know, they're trying to get some economic stability for themselves, but they're not trying to be like super exploitative. I would say the vast majority are not like that, but there are just some regular people who, yeah, like mom and pop landlord types who, you know, they're just trying to live their lives. I've had good landlords, and I've had bad landlords. I've had a lot of landlords in my life. The vast majority are douchebags. But there are some decent people too. Just like cops too. You know, there's not we want to get rid of the institution of landlordism. It's not like individual people are just, you know, they're just doing what they have to do to survive. What are thoughts on cryptocurrency? I'm not into it, but I do sometimes get cryptocurrency people who follow me because they like people who are nuclear advocates, because nuclear requires a lot, or cryptocurrency requires a shitload of energy. So they love nuclear energy. So generally, cryptocurrency people are like more based than not. I'm not into it. I'm not really into like money. I'm not like a money person. You hate the term landlord because someone who owns a few multifamily homes is not a landlord? I think they still are a landlord. I think if you own property and you rent, if you rent property, you're a landlord. A person of land. You know, we actually did it. We had people like that in Kingston. We had people who were like woke landlords who were like during the whole BLM thing, they were like woke landlords who were like posting on Instagram about shit and like about, you know, like woke politics. And there would be people from like New York City, just like total libtards, who would be like, oh, I'm so glad I found a landlord who understands intersectionality. Like, it's so crazy. Oh, that's love for landlords. Yeah. I do like that silly shit. You always tip your landlord 25%. Yeah, I saw that video recently. It's pretty funny. Yeah. Yeah, intersectionality is a pseudoscience. It is stupid. It is very stupid. But Jesus, it's 9 o'clock already. I gotta make dinner, guys. I have to make dinner. I have to labor hard. I have to use my free time to do labor and make my dinner and then serve it to myself and my partner, Alex. All right, guys. It's been a fun stream, and I will see you on the flip side, on the flippity flip.